stated goal with his design was what he figuratively called defeated architecture, by which he meant a stadium that would transcend its design. But if the man in the rafters had his way, defeated architecture would come to mean something quite a bit more literal in the weeks ahead. Having breached all manner of security on his way up the south wall, the man had found a recessed gap between the nosebleed seats at the top of the stadium and the rafters of the Oculus that opened up onto the sky. The gap would be used for TV cameras during the games, but for now it would serve very nicely as his sniper's hide. He crawled inside and waited, enjoying the hum of quiet as the faint stars in the black sky began to fade into the spreading shades of purple and pearl of astronomical dawn. An hour later, he watched through his rifle scope as 100 or so men in blue jumpsuits and peaked caps marched in smart files to the middle of the field. He noticed that his finger had unconsciously tightened around the trigger. He relaxed it. "Not yet," he thought. "Not yet." Up until a week earlier, security for the Olympics had been the responsibility of a joint venture made up of 14 private companies. But Prime Minister Adegawa had decided that the measures that the joint venture had in place were inadequate for ensuring maximum safety, and thus had replaced it with the Japan Intelligence Agency, JIA, which reported directly to him. The JIA men on the field fanned out around the field and began, along with much of the country at the same time, what is known as Radio Taiso, or radio calisthenics. The man in the sniper's hide shook his head and smiled in amusement. It was exactly how they did it back home, right down to the little piano ditty that played over the loudspeaker system. He peered intently through his rifle scope, looking for a specific person, a foreigner with Mediterranean features who had grown up in Japan. The shooter had made the man's acquaintance in North Korea 4 years earlier. Finally, he found him. "He's dead," he thought. Adrenaline again coursed through his viscera. But then he relaxed his finger on the trigger. Not yet. Not yet. The foreigner with Mediterranean features had skipped the morning's calisthenics since he had gotten up at 3:30 a.m. to do his mixed martial arts kata back home in Kamakura, about 40 miles away. He had been a star long-distance runner at Kamakura High School, and his eyes still had the inner intensity that came from churning out, mile after mile, around the seaside town with nothing in his head except the classical music he loved, especially that of Bach. Loner music, his father had called it, and he meant it as a compliment. As his eyes took in the stadium, the foreigner thought 4 weeks ahead to the day of the closing ceremony, when the marathoners would be sprinting into the stadium after their 26-mile traversal of Tokyo in stifling heat and humidity. For the briefest of moments, he wondered if he might have had a shot at the Olympics, had circumstances been different. But he cut himself off in mid-thought. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Total waste of time. Especially at my age. He had eaten a quick breakfast and ridden his motorcycle up on the all-but-deserted Shuto Expressway, arriving at the stadium ready to begin his first full day with the men who would be serving under him, a foreigner. How Japan had changed in the years since his youth, he marveled, before remembering the many more things about Japan that would never change in 1,000 years. He had been hired as chief security consultant for the 2021 Olympics, but many of the old hands in the JIA, Japan's CIA, resented taking orders from a foreigner, xenophobia that had also raised its ugly head when the stadium's first architect, the British-Iraqi Zaha Hadid, a woman no less, was summarily fired in order to bring in Kengo Kuma. The foreigner had been hired by the new director of the JIA because of allegations of corruption and possible treason within his own agency. Its former director was suspected of being in